Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 2, season 6 of the SSF Rumcast. I am, as always, Jessica Haynes, and I am joined by my sister from another mister.
Emma, hello. Oh, Emma
Hello.
Jackson. You did
Yes,
surname this
I
time.
did.
Last
I
time
don't
it
know.
was we were very casual last time. It was just
Yes,
first names
we're
and
going for the proper formal now.
yeah, that's it. It did feel very formal. I was getting like CBeebies news round vibes.
What you don't know is that underneath this, I've got nothing on.
Oh no,
So,
don't. Let's not go there with that stuff. I shouldn't have done it.
so yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
number 2.
episode 2.
Yeah. So if you were with us last week, we gave you some information, but not a huge amount of information about what we're actually doing this week because we've taken a
Yeah.
bit of a turn in the
Mm-hmm.
format. So
Yes.
yeah, we're kind of sticking to the 6 degrees of the baconness. So we are kind of linking each book to the next book, but from 2 to 5, that's right, isn't
Yeah.
it? 2 to 5, we are going on different tangents.
Yes.
So we
We
will
will
have
be
different links.
traveling on different roads,
Yeah,
wiggling around,
paths
and then
unknown.
arriving at the same destination in episode 6.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So last week we did The Winter King by C.L. Wilson. Is that
That's the very chap.
right?
Hmm.
That's the one.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So now we get to announce what theme or trope or element we took from it and which book we picked to
Hmm.
discuss in this episode. So, do you want
Indeed.
to go first?
I can do. I can do. Do we want book or link first?
We could do link. We could do the
I'm
link and
gonna
then you
link
tell
then.
the book. I don't mind. You
Oh,
looked
either.
surprised then. I was like, did you want to do the
I
book
don't know which way
first?
to
This is
go.
fine.
No, I will do my link first because
Okay.
that's the whole point of the joining of the podcast.
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
link to my book is Deception.
Ooh,
Mm.
okay.
And my
Yeah.
book is Tempting the Beast by Lora Leigh.
Ooh, I think I might have heard of that one. Hmm.
It's a bit more old school. I actually have the actual book because I don't think when I first got it, I could get it on
Oh,
my
you
Kindle.
mentioned that last week.
Yes,
Yeah. Having a physical book, very
I
old
know.
school,
Weird.
but cool. Okay. So should I do, I'll announce my one now.
Mm-hmm. Drum roll,
So
please.
I went with um sort of berserker god possessions to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, just like really
You want to
specific there.
pinpoint it for us? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That was the element. Um, obviously, because in the Winter King, he's got the Ice King, hasn't he?
The
Sort of
icy heart.
icy heart. Yeah, but I mean, the only thing it is, I picked it, and then afterwards, I was like, was that a god? I would say it's a god.
I think it
Would
has
you
got
say?
godlike tendencies, hasn't he? With Roland's sword and everything in tow,
Yeah,
he's kind of up there.
yeah. So we'll go for that. And my book is Paladin's Grace by T Kingfisher.
Ah,
Have you read
yes.
that one?
I have it here. I did not read it.
Oh, you haven't read it, but yeah.
No,
So you'll
I
find
think
out. I'll
yes.
see if I can entice you.
Ooh, like the dove from above.
Yeah,
Mm.
I remember that. Coo,
Yes,
coo.
that's the right one.
You
You
knew.
are new.
You Fafu.
If you're not pretty,
We
we're
were
really
just,
sorry.
I know, we were just in different playgrounds, miles away from each other in our childhoods, doing this stuff with other
Oh,
people, not
yeah.
knowing we
Looking at
would eventually find each other, kind of like this series, eventually
indeed, it gets
wind
back
our
to
way.
yes, looking at the same sun in the sky and wanting to just go
That's
home and
it.
read books.
Yes. So, on that note, shall
Let's
we?
go
Let's go.
and read. So, yeah, Laura Leigh, Tempting the Beast is my book, and this is one I found. Yeah, it's a one that I found quite a good while away, and yeah, I'll give some spoilers. No, I won't give some spoilers. I'll give some issues about trigger warnings because there will be
Okay.
something I mentioned quite early that will be spoilery and that might bother people. But yeah, so
Yeah.
just yeah, trigger warnings. Just check your books. You know what you're doing, people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have. This is my name that I'm a bit confused about. I'm calling her Merriness
That
because
sounds fun.
yeah, because somebody calls her Mary later in the book, but me and the other half were like, is it Marinus? Marina?
Oh, I see.
So we're going for Marinus because it sounds jolly and
Yeah.
festive.
Mhm.
So we have Mary, who is the youngest of 8 kids, and everybody above her is a boy. So she
Okay.
is sassy, stubborn, and when she wants to go for it, she goes for it.
Mhm.
And they are all they don't mention mom, but there is dad, and dad is a journalist. He's been a journalist for years, and all of the kids have kind of followed along in his path. Um, the boys have all had other bits and pieces that they've nipped in and out of, which has some relevance to other bits of deception, which is my link at other points. But yeah,
Yes.
but Mary's been there and she wants to do it. She's in her 20s. She's kind of just really getting in there. And the dad has received a box from somebody he used to go to college with. And in this box is information from a woman he was very good friends with at college who was murdered. And basically, it outlines that there is a government facility where they have been testing to try and link DNA from cats, big cats, with humans and create this strain of they're trying to breed super soldiers in the end.
Okay. Mhm.
So yeah, they've got
Mm.
various feline breeds who they have been trying to merge with people, and this woman managed to implement a ovum, whatever zygote, whatever you call it, into herself and was surrogate for this man.
Okay.
And she was murdered, but she sent this box out saying, "Look, in the event of my death, I need you to find him and to get him to go public with what is going on and get this base shut down because it is horrendous."
Right.
So basically, this entire family has been working on this, trying to get this chap, whose name is Callan Lyons. We'll just give that a minute. Um, to
Right,
basically
yeah.
come forward.
Mm.
So they've all been working behind the scenes. And Mary, as soon as she saw the picture of this dude, she's like, oh, he's quite nice and tasty. And she's already
Okay.
having a moment with him. But she's having to persuade 7 older brothers that she can go have contact with him as a woman because the men are just going to go in all guns blazing. Especially her
Right.
eldest brother, Kane, who has a massive military background. So she has to persuade these brothers that she can go in, get some information and get him to talk and come forward and go public with what he is. In the end, she kind of gets her way, youngest, stubborn, etc. But Kane is going to be in there with her. And as soon as she gets there, she knows who he is, but she's been asking around like she doesn't know who he is. So she's been
Okay.
going around all the people in the village. Oh, do you know who he is? Do you know where he is? And she's found where he lives, but she can't find a way to get in. So she's kind of
Mhm.
lurking around the outskirts with the binoculars and setting up a little camp. And he knows that she's there, but he doesn't let her know that he knows she's there.
Okay.
And
It's very
he
cat
comes
behavior
out.
that.
Yeah,
Did she
yeah,
try
this
like
is it.
drawing a circle and seeing if he'd sit in the middle of it? She should have done
She's
that.
gonna crochet and just kind of lead it around the path. No, what
Yeah.
he actually does is he comes out and sunbathes naked and starts
Okay. Fair enough.
yanking the snake. So, and she's
Ooh.
watching him, what, and he knows she's there, and it's all very
Right.
heightened. So, yeah, he has heightened sense of smell, sense of taste. He's all downy and fluffy as
Oh. Oh,
as a
this
little
is giving
cupboard thing.
ThunderCats vibes.
Well, this is it, yeah. So this is going to be mentioned later on. But yeah, so it's quite fun. So he's sat doing this while she's watching. She's already kind of heightened by just seeing him. So she's getting a bit hot and bothered. It is a
Mm.
notable point to say she is a virgin because
Okay.
obviously. Um, and yeah, she doesn't know she kind of understands the feelings are there, but she doesn't know how she knows that they're that epically physical because she'd never experienced some of these feelings before.
Okay.
So she's kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, this is all a bit weird. It's a bit much. I didn't
Mm.
think it would be like this when this happens. But yeah, basically, it is very cat and mousey. So at the end
Ooh.
of it, she's like, okay, I'm going to go see him. I know he works part time at this garage. and I'm going to go and see him and pretend I don't know who he is. So she goes up, he is there with his head under the bonnet, and she's like, hi, do you know Callan? Do you know where he is? And he's like, oh, I'll get a message to him. And they're both stood there,
They both
just
know.
blatantly lying to the other one
Right.
about what to do. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of like, just, oh, yeah, twirling her hair and being a bit seductive and yeah, just trying to get his attention one way or
Yeah.
another to make him crack. And he doesn't and she doesn't. But it gets to a head when she gets a phone call from somebody. Her brother's had to go off for some reason. And she gets a phone call to say, okay, you want to know where the entrance of this place is to speak to this dude? It's around here. So she gets this little map. She draws it up, goes off in a Jeep. And what she doesn't know, which Callan is trying to keep under his belt, is that he escaped from this facility. So yeah, so he is the product of this
Right.
horrible, yeah, I don't know, it's like a Frankenstein's creation base when you read more
Mm-hmm.
into it. It's not pleasant. And he escaped once and he got pulled back and he and the other breeds that nobody knows about, they only think there was ever him who survived, set
Right.
fire to the place, killed loads of people and got away. So he is trying to keep her away to protect his pride,
Yeah.
which they're not all lions. There are different breeds within it, and those are the future books. But yeah, this is what he's doing. He's trying to keep her away because if he goes public, he's pretty sure that they
Mm-hmm.
are all going to be found out. And he doesn't mind dying for his cause, and he will go to his grave with their identities hidden. Because
Right.
none of the others are mentioned in his mum's paperwork. She only ever
Mm-hmm.
fully documented him because he was technically hers.
Right.
So yeah, basically, Mary gets this map to go to his front door. And what you find out is that there is loads of assassins who are regularly sent to Callan's area to kind
Right.
of get him to come out and to try and capture him.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them had seen her asking questions about him around and about the place, and they've lured her in because they think that she has some link to him. So
Right.
yeah,
Immediately made
basically,
herself a target.
yes, basically. So she gets there and there's like these assassins basically there to take her out. And
Mm.
he knows that she's in the surroundings and he goes ballistic and he goes all growly and he sort of shoots down the mountain and kills them all. And then when they are in super close proximity and he's all catty, things start kicking off in that sexual energy department that she didn't know
Okay.
about. So yeah, basically, I'll try and condense it now.
Mm-hmm.
The more they're together, the more these urges, these sexual urges kind of start kicking
I
off
see.
and they kind of bounce against each other. So he gets more feral and more dominant
That's one
when
way of
the,
putting
yeah, yeah,
it.
he gets something. The more he's with her, and then she becomes not submissive because she really isn't. But
Yeah.
yeah, she kind of starts getting pulled under that dominance and then fighting back
Okay.
against him as the push and pull of things are. And yeah, basically what it gets down to is there's a mating frenzy. So with how they've tweaked the DNA, something in her DNA calls to him, and then he sort of kickstarts her into this massive ovulation cycle. And
Oh,
it's kind
wow.
of, yeah, the more they're together, the worse and the worse it gets. And when they finally do end up having sex, he's got like some super duper semen that even though they're trying to shove contraceptives into her because they don't know how his messed up DNA is gonna
Uh-huh.
react with hers,
Yeah.
basically it kind of changes her DNA in theory and it kind
Oh.
of starts destroying the contraception within her
Uh-huh.
because basically the body just wants to breed and create
Yep.
more fluffy downy babies.
So when you say, does he like shift into a
No,
cat,
he
or
doesn't shift.
he's just
No,
you
he
just
is
mean
just,
like him letting the beast out kind of
yeah,
thing?
yeah, Jeff. It's kind of spoken about that it's in him. There is this beast in him, but it's kind of, yeah, more the persona that he goes a
Yeah.
lot more aggressive. He gets a lot more angry. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he doesn't shift into anything, but he does have the heightened sense of smell, taste, and bits like that. And he's
Yeah.
got glands under his tongue that when they kiss, they kind of set her into an even worse frenzy. So yeah, every time they kiss, that starts it 10 times worse. And the only way to
Wow.
stop the fire is by him finishing her off and her
Yeah.
finishing him off, as
Okay.
you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Sounds busy.
Yes, but yeah. So the main point is that yeah, they need to kind of then work together to get
Mm.
it put out there, and it's then her brother Kane has been lying in theory because he knows about this when he was like
Oh,
special ops guy.
all
He
right.
knew that this
Hmm.
facility existed, and he
Yeah.
was pulled along and is already been in contact with one of the other female breeds who is in the compound
Oh.
that Callan created. So
Hmm.
there's loads of lies and bits and pieces
Yeah,
lurking.
which is very similar to the Winter King.
Mm,
It's like
yeah,
every time you think that you know everything, another thing comes
yeah.
out of the
There's another
woodwork.
thing that comes out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is it, and you kind of still get to the very, very end, and then something else comes out about his mom, and you go, "Oh, didn't
All
see
right.
that bit coming." So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's loads of stuff going on, but it was very good. Very
Okay.
many sexy times.
It does. It sounds like it. Yeah. I still
Yeah.
can't stop picturing ThunderCats.
Well, she does. She
Have
calls
you
him
got the book
Lion-O.
there with the
I do.
cover? Okay.
Oh yeah,
Let's
I
see.
don't know if you'll
Look.
see it. Thunder, thunder, thunder,
It,
thunder.
it's
Oh, my
even
ring
the
light's
right
gonna.
colours on it with the streaky thing. Yeah. That's a cool cover though.
Oh, it's very good. But yes, so that's mine.
Okay, right. So, yeah, mine's quite different.
Of course
We're
it is.
already doing this tangent
Mm,
thing. Um, yeah, so Paladin's Grace, it's the god side of things features quite heavily into it because um so Stephen is a paladin and the book opens with him. He is a paladin for what is it? The Saint of Steel, and he's with some
nice.
of his fellow brothers, and they're like they kind of mostly they're berserkers basically, but they're guided by the god, and so it stops them from hurting innocents and like being more focused when they go into their berserker thing. And so they'll be involved in wars, but they'll also be kind of they help out in other ways as well, like with protection, you know. And when it opens, that's kind of what they've been doing. They've been going off to help. I think it's the Temple of Dreamers. There's been some like demons and stuff, and they've gone to help with that. But they're riding back, and basically they suddenly get hit by this intense feeling of emptiness, and it's described as like being cored, and that it's just long enough before their kind of berserker rage falls and they realize their god has died, which
Ooh,
is not something that anyone knew could happen because there's lots of different gods for different things and lots of different temples, so it worries everyone. But that's what happens right at the beginning. And then, yeah, the sort of the berserker rage kind of, they call it like, well, he describes it as kind of like a black tide. It rolls over him and then he doesn't know what happens after that.
boom.
And then it's 3 years later, and him and a couple of other brothers from the Saint of Steel have been taken in by the Temple of the White Rat. Now um they don't have paladins or anything like that. So they've kind of got this relationship where the paladins that no longer have a god are being given shelter, and um they're very lost. They don't know what to do with themselves. It's taken them quite badly. There was terrible things that they did when the god died, and some of them couldn't live with what had happened. So trigger warning for that. There's some self-unaliving that's gone on and things like that. They're like really despondent, and some of them are dealing with it better than others. But in the Temple of the White Rat, they're like kind of diplomats and lawyers, and but in a what would you call it? Like a citizens advice bureau almost. They help out. They're
Yeah, they're for
kind. They're
information.
very kind people, kind
Ah,
practical people that go out and do good. So if there's waifs and strays, they will be the one that takes them in. And they've taken in Stephen and there's a couple of others which I'll probably go into later. Um, and then the paladins help them out by kind of being their hired muscle. So if there's things happening where they need to have some protection, they'll help
they
out.
got a bouncer.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And he goes to go into this old part of town, which is called Weaver's Nest, which was where he grew up, to meet with a healer who's got some rounds to do. And the healer is like, I don't need you to come with me for this. You know, I don't need a bodyguard. But there's been a serial killer going around decapitating people. So he's like,
Probably
I should
do.
really stay.
Yeah.
I should stay. But the healer's really, really nice, and he asks some questions about it and things. And like, they're still wearing the cloaks to show that they are of the Saint of Steel, even though he's not still around. And like the healer's asking, well, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, really to warn people that we're still dangerous. Because the berserker rages can still come over them. They'll get tipped over, but without the god there, they fear there's nothing to hold them back anymore. And really, it's only each other that have been able to stop them whenever that's how they basically like knock each other out so they can't do anything. Because, you know, like with berserkers, they're filled with so much, you know, inhuman strength kind of thing. But he goes into Weaver's Nest, it's called, and eventually the healer gets around to one patient and he's like, I'm going to have to stay here the entire night. If you could go back to the temple and just let them know that that's where I'm going to be. So as Stephen's walking out, he hears running, and this woman comes around the corner and she's like, hide me. He's like, okay. And it turns out there's some priests from the, what is it, the Hanged Mother that are coming, and these are like the worst. They are kind of like the Inquisition type people. These are the people that are going to try and burn you for stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're sort of in favor with the ruler at the moment. You know, they lean towards certain types of religions and gods and things, and then they'll get more favor, and that will then have have you know, consequences as to rules and stuff like that. So he helps, but the way he helps is because this particular part of town is not too far from kind of their red light district area. So of course what he does is he lifts her up against the wall and pretends that they're having sex
Yeah, yeah.
as they come behind him. And these two from the Hanged Mother, they do not give in easily either. And like Stephen's really sweet. He's trying to do this thing, and he's like going, "Oh yeah, you can. I've not seen a woman other than this one. You can go find your own, you know, kind of thing." And all the while he's doing this, he's like kind of apologizing to her. I'm so sorry that I'm having to do this, like under his breath, because he's
Aw.
like, he's very sweet, and he's doing this thing. But then she takes part in it too. She's like, she cottons on quick what's happening and gets into it, but she's terrible. It's the thing as well. She's like faking it, but she's really bad at faking it. To the point where it's like, you understand why later on. So she's not a virgin hero, but she is I don't know if she is technically divorced. I don't think she's technically divorced. But her husband was, you know, he did a number on her confidence in the bedroom and made it all her fault that he was rubbish, basically. So she
Yeah.
would have to pretend to, you know, to get him to give in and stop, kind of thing, you know, be done, get it over with quickly. So she dials it up far too high. It's not very believable, and she's got no context for what would be believable
Because
because
she didn't
she's not
know.
had that experience.
Ah.
So it's really well done, because it's kind of like it's so funny because of your kind of like your first moment between your two
Oh, yeah.
is like them distanced but
Yeah.
actually getting off.
But yeah, really getting off on
And
it.
these
And
two
yours
are
is
literally pretending but not getting off at all,
not
because
doing
it's
it very
like
well.
she's holding she's got her legs around him, but because he's got all his armor on, it's like digging into his
Oh,
chainmail. This is the point.
oh,
So it never gets kind of icky, because he's like that there's no way he would get aroused, or she
yeah.
would, from this position that they're being in. But finally they give in and go off, and like he says, like, can I walk you back, make sure you're okay? And she's like, yeah, all right then. And explains what she was doing. And it turns out she's a perfumer, and she was going to a graveyard to pick a particular type of flower that's not valuable to anyone. But these monks or priests from the Hanged Mother thought she was trying to steal something valuable.
Oh, what's
And
it?
didn't believe it. They'd take any excuse, really. There's
Mm.
yeah. But so she's explaining all about that, and they're having a nice chat, and he's like, for the first time in ages, he's starting to feel alive, and sort of it's really sweet. She's making him laugh, and he was like, don't remember the last time he laughed. And it reminds him, God, I've been really miserable. um and he takes her back to her perfume shop, and there's a little moment where she says, like, she's at the end of the road, and she's like, oh, you can leave it, I can go the rest of the way from here. And he's like, oh, well, don't, I've rescued you, don't let it be like half a rescue. And her back goes up immediately at that moment. But he, like, notices, and he's like, oh, I've put my foot in it, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
whatever I've said.
Aw.
So um she explains that she's got these neighbors that are, like, always, like, curtain twitching on her, and she'll go back, and that's it. And they part ways, and they've not even got each other's names or anything like that. um and back
She's
at
got the
her,
chainmail.
yeah, yeah. Back at her perfume shop, her it's like a week later, and she still can't stop thinking about him.
Of course she
um,
can.
because he smells of gingerbread as well.
Oh, okay.
It's like one of these, and it's driving her nuts, because she knows so much about the smells and where certain smells come from. And she's like, there's particular scents that are used for, like, oiling armor and things like that. And it's not that thing. So why does he smell like
Why does he
gingerbread?
smell like
I can,
biscuits?
yeah. Has he been baking biscuits? Why would he
Oh,
do that? He doesn't bake biscuits. I won't say why he smells of gingerbread,
oh,
but I will say that one of the things he does, which I haven't mentioned previously, when he's waiting for the healer, when he's going in to do his visits, he gets his knitting out. He does some knitting. He
oh,
knits
bless him.
socks for everybody, to be useful, to find something
Oh,
to do with his time, because it's a lot of standing around.
big cuddly berserker. I
So
like it.
sweet. And but the gingerbread is only one part of the thing. She's obviously thinking about him. They've had this connection. And her landlady comes in, and she's kind of also her best friend. Um, and her name's Marguerite, and she's she's a spy, basically. Which is great. She's at the court, and she takes her payment from Grace, in because it's Grace who is the lady. Um she takes her payment in perfumes, and then she sells them at court, which is great for Grace, because she gets them kind of, like, recognized at that, like, higher level.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they'll keep buying them anyway, even when Marguerite's finished trying to extract
Yeah, doing
information
what she's
from them
doing.
and moved on. And yeah, it's funny, because she's so sick of making perfume with sandalwood as well, which made me laugh, because
Yeah.
it's like
How
it's
many times?
always
Oh,
sandalwood.
always bloody sandalwood.
That's it.
I still don't know what it smells like.
I
One
don't
day.
I don't know what it smells like. I'm sure I would if someone, like, if I sniff something and go, oh, that's sandalwood, I'd be like, oh, I've been smelling that
That's it.
tons, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do they make a comfort with sandalwood? It's like lilies and
I don't know.
I'm
They
gonna
don't
go into
put that
Lush.
on the side, do they, of the
No.
bottle? They only put it
Smells
on
like
men's
romance
things.
lead.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, so uh Marguerite has also got wind of the fact that, I'm kind of skipping a little bit so we can get there,
Yeah.
but there's a prince coming from one of the close cities,
Cool.
and she wants Grace to make up he needs, like, offerings. All the nobles come, and they offer gifts and things, so while they're doing their diplomatic chit chats and whatnot. and she wants Grace to make a special blend of perfume for him. She's like, fine, she can do that. And Grace asks some questions about like the Saints of Steel, and she's she's talking to a spy. She immediately gets what's going
Yeah,
on, and
come on.
she digs a little bit deeper. She's like, right, I'm going to try and find out who he is, and where he is, and she
What
kind
he
of
does.
fills in a little bit about some of the stuff that happened, and that also brings about the fact that Grace hasn't been in the city for a long time either. She's only been there a couple of years, which is why she didn't know the events that played out when the god died. Um, and she'd run away from her husband. Um, Grace has had like a really hard life. She was in an orphanage. She got picked up at like 9 by a perfumer for to be an apprentice. And he was horrible. And she's
Mm,
got this like old book that he used to use, but he could never use because he couldn't decipher it. But she could, and she took that with her when she left, when she
good.
got married. Yeah, but it's full of the strangest stuff. It really is. And she kind of uses it to look up, like almost it's like alchemy, but not, and like witchcraft, but also
Nice.
perfume stuff. It's a very strange book, and she uses that to like try and get advice, and it often nothing remotely helpful.
I'd imagine, yeah. Dabbling
um
in witchcraft is not
yeah.
going to kind of put you in good stead for most things.
So as well as that, then she got married, and that obviously didn't go well, and her husband had affairs and things like that, and he'd taken on her apprenticeship, and he never put forward for her to then be made a master of the guild, so she's still technically not that. And she legged it. She decided she'd had enough, she was going to leave. And she also took her there was a pet. So, have you ever heard of I think this is how you say it. What's that? What they called civets or cervets? Let me hang on. Let me
I
see.
have no idea.
Right, it's kind of like a cross between a ferret and a big cat. So,
Okay.
and they secrete something which is used. I'm not saying it right. I need to look that up.
We'll look into it. Is
Civet.
it from
Yeah.
is it from glands of some description?
It's from glands. It's
Yeah.
perfume. It's gonna be gross. Anything that's used for perfume
Yeah.
is totally gross. But he picked the wrong, I think he picked the wrong sex I think it's meant to be the female and he's got a male, and he didn't understand anything about perfuming. So she pretended, because otherwise she knew he'd get rid of it, like he'd
Oh,
kill it off. And so she took him with her. So he's useless to help her. He just like digs holes in
just
upholstery and
wonders.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's rescued this pet and brought it
Oh,
with her. Um, and like Marguerite gets her dress dolled up when she's done this perfume and takes her to the court. And of course, Stephen's there too,
of course he is.
because he's gone to be one of the kind of the retinue of one of the higher members of the White Rat Temple, who is her name's Bearclaw. She's
She
very
sounds
cool.
fun.
Awesome, awesome. Um, Oh, Bear Tongue, sorry, not Bear Claw. Bear Tongue's just cool as well. And
Yeah.
he's got 2 of his other brothers with him, and they've all been selected simply because they have beards. Because that's meant to be a good sign to these
Oh,
people from
okay.
this other city. It's like, I don't know why. So they've gone, and then while she's there, while Grace is there, he spots her when she goes up to do her thing, like present the perfume to this prince. Um, but as she's coming away, there's these nobles from this other city, which is where she fled from. And she's kind of been hiding herself. They've made up this story, her and Marguerite, that because she's a perfumer, she has to keep her nose like really clear. She's got like a hanky with something in it to, I think it's like char-beans or something, so that she keeps it clear, but so she can hide her face, basically. Um, but she sees her, and it's one of the women that her husband dallied with, basically, and completely embarrassed her, and she starts to have a panic attack, and she like legs it out. and Stephen has noticed her, and they the people he's with, his brothers and Beartug, have noticed and gone like, you can go, we know what's going on,
Go
you
save the day, Stephen.
go save the day. And he meets up with her, and he kind of gets her while she's swooning again, which is like, she feels terrible, like, why does this keep happening? And just when she's feeling better and they're starting to like walk back inside kind of the main stateroom, they come across basically like an assassin attempt, and because of their timing, they're kind of implicated in it, so that kind of is what ties them together and like kicks off some of the rest of the plot and the
Yeah.
story, which is yeah, it's
It sounds like a wild ride.
it's a wild ride, but it's like at the same, I mean, and that even touching on like the serial killer stuff, which is
Yeah, I was gonna
also
say, yeah, the
woven
decapitation
through
of
it
people
at the
was
same time. Yeah, there's like kind of these two plots going on that come together, but at the same time it's really cozy. I
I was gonna say,
don't
it here's me
know.
thinking it's like hand
It is
holding and lovely,
it is the
jolly.
strangest tone, but in the best way. It's amazing. So
So,
yeah.
so Jack the Ripper meets. I'm
I
trying to
don't
think of a
know.
nice couple. I can't
It's
think of a
got
nice couple.
like a very Terry Pratchett-esque tone. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, it's very cool.
it sounds very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
So what was your cocktail for yours? What was
Oh,
the
okay. So, okay, so I was gonna try and make something up, but I saw one that I thought, if I don't pick this, it's fantastic. I couldn't have picked anything funnier. Okay, so my cocktail would be it's kind of pina colada-esque without the pineapple. So it's
love
rum
it?
and
Mm.
coconut and lime, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called the lint roller.
As I take a sip of drink.
Sorry, I was
Brilliant.
gonna leave it a minute, but I thought no. But I read it and I
Perfect.
kind of giggled. I couldn't stop. But
That
yeah,
that's
so
exactly what you need.
yeah, basically. So yeah, my part one is my plot, obviously. So the first part that I want to talk about is
Hmm.
shifters. So
Okay.
when you mentioned it, and it was like, duh, 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 oh, does he shift? And no, he doesn't, and none of them do.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of how many, if you stop and think about it, how many different types of shifters there
Hmm.
are. And I remember first starting to read books, and it was just wolves. That was it. It was werewolves and
Yeah.
wolf shifters,
Hmm.
and I don't know if there were so many others way back in the day, or
I mean, definitely werewolves are like the, mythologically speaking, the most
yeah,
common one. But even
the
when you
biggest
go
one.
back in like other legends, there's like tons of different animals that like shift into things. I mean, yeah. But in terms of romance books, it was always
It
werewolves,
was
wasn't
always
it, to
wolves, yeah.
begin with?
And then you'd
Mm.
kind of some of them now I've read rabbit ones and some of them really weird like ferrets and all sorts of stuff,
Yeah.
and I love it. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was just the different levels of as well. So you get some fully shift, some who only shift partially, like your
Mm-hmm.
lichens and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And whereas this one, there's no shifting at all. I'd imagine because of how the DNA was sort of
Yeah, because
spliced
it's
in.
just
It's
what
just,
they are, kind of
yeah,
thing.
it's just taken traits of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, some will shift when it's full moon only, and some are just kind
Mm-hmm.
of all the time. Alphas are going to shift differently to betas and omegas. And
Yeah.
it just kind of, it made me really stop and actually think about it on kind of a different level that I
Yeah.
don't really pay attention to it when I'm reading it. It just is
Huh. You
that
just
way.
kind of like, oh, how are they going to do it in this one?
In this
What's
book,
kind of
yeah.
the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was funny you mentioned it about like bunny ones
Yeah.
and things, because I've read a couple of the Psy Changeling ones I was telling you, didn't I?
Yes.
I was like going on to a bit of a getting into that again, and it's like she'll always focus on the apex predator type ones there, but
Yeah.
there are others she just doesn't talk about.
No, you
It's
don't
like they're
mention the
there, but we're not going to focus on those. We're
yeah.
not going to focus on
We're not going to have a love interest in the rat family.
no,
They're just
no,
helpful to the plot.
not squirrels and stuff.
No.
Mm-mm.
Ah.
Ah. But would they be giant ones? That's the thing. Because
That would be,
it's always like a large animal, isn't it? Because it kind of
yes,
makes sense. But
bears and
if you would you have like a giant bunny or, or not? Because I feel like that would be even more terrifying.
oh yeah, like Curse of the Were-Rabbit, like the big
Yeah,
Wallace thing
exactly.
coming at you.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Is it
That would
that,
be.
or is it like bed knobs and broomsticks where he becomes the tiny bunny?
It very well could be.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. See, when I've done things, my shifters are, yeah, I've done stone, so that's more fun to sit and play
Yeah.
with. But yeah, I've never sat and done another creature to sit and think about that. But that is something
No,
fun to play with.
it is
Imagine
definitely
a 7 foot bunny.
like so frightening. I suppose it wouldn't really go under the radar. Like if you've got a
No.
wolf, then it can just go run in the woods and people are like, oh, there's a wolf in the woods. But like if you've got
Yeah, this
a
giant
seven
rabbit.
foot bunny going around stealing people's pumpkins and stuff. You know there's a
Oh,
fanfic out
Jesus.
there somewhere.
Somewhere. Yeah.
There
With a
will
giant
be.
gilt carrot. Where's that going?
Yeah. Oh God. Jessica. You had to go there.
Got to make it dark somehow.
Yes.
It's a rabbit. How else are you going to explain
Oh, little fluffy
So do you
tail.
want to do your bits or shall I finish my
Uh,
bits?
I'll do mine.
You do
ThunderCat and
your
we'll get
bits
like same.
back
So
and
my
forth.
cocktail, because of the gingerbreadness, is a gingerbread martini. So
Ooh.
the plot is the vodka. But what I'm doing with my first bit that I wanted to talk about, that's you mix it with Baileys, which is what
Ooh.
I've been drinking throughout
Job
this.
done. I have seen
Yes.
it.
And the reason I felt that really suited this particular bit is because Baileys is it feels like it's the kind of drink that you start to regularly get once you become a bit middle-aged.
Yes, I have several different flavors of
Yeah.
Baileys. Yeah.
I'm sure there are young people out there that enjoy it too, but I never did.
No.
Until it was like, until it was Christmas time and it was like, and it started to become this thought that, oh, I must pick up the Baileys.
Yes.
It's on offer in the supermarket now. Must get that to put it in the cupboard.
Yes. It
And
goes
it's
so
that,
well in a coffee as well.
yeah.
Just
Oh,
easy.
that would be good.
Mm.
Um, so is that kind of practical thinking that only happens once you get over a certain point in life, which is is what it felt really unique to this story because they're older protagonists. They're
Yes.
like in their late 30s.
Hmm.
And it's the first book I've really read that I've gone, they really feel like they think like older people.
Yes.
Right? Like how sometimes you get people that get people review books and they go, these people are meant to be in their 30s and they don't act like it. And it's not that I'm criticizing that because I think people in their 30s are just as likely to make stupid decisions like and act like idiots
Yeah.
as young people, being someone that has gone past their 30s, it's very much true that you will
Hmm.
still do silly shit.
Really stupid things.
Yeah. And not act particularly mature because you never feel mature. Um, but there's also, without a doubt, a certain passage of time that gives you a kind of mix of cynicism and practicality, I
Yes.
think. And that is what kind of feeds into this. So like when they have the berserker rage and they get like this inhuman strength, afterwards they've done things they shouldn't have done like
Mhm.
for their body. He's knackered, he's muscled, like he's obviously because he trains and he's he carries a heavy sword and he knows how to use it. But he's like he's still he's kind of like a a fit dad bod, I guess. It's like
Nice.
this is the thing. So like when he comes to after doing something like that, his back's slipped out and stuff. And it's just brilliant.
The knees, you forget that the knees don't work as well
Yeah,
when
the
you've
knees,
danced in
the
high
hip,
heels for 3 hours.
stuff
Yeah.
like this. He doesn't. This is the thing with standing up. He doesn't like to do the standing up ones just in one place for too
Yes,
long.
because
Touch
everything will
feet.
seize up. Fair
And he's
enough.
like, when he's in Weaver's Nest, he like notices these kids playing this like skipping game, and it's got like a particular rhyme to it. And he remembers playing it, and he remembers like the most amount of skips he got to, but he just reflects and he's like, it's funny how I can remember that, but I can't remember what I did last week. And
Yeah,
it's like, yes, that's
just
exactly
perfectly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that about it. They're very authentically their age, and yet it doesn't take anything away from it. I think sometimes you think like if they're older protagonists and they come across as older protagonists, it won't be as sexy or something. And
No,
it's like, admittedly, some bits are not as sexy. It's not as sexy to put
no.
your back out, but it's still good times, you
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah. Kids, if you ever watch this, don't.
know. No, but there we go. So yeah, that was my second bit. So what was your other mix for
Okay,
your cocktail
so
then?
oddly, so yeah, it's so my rum was the first, coconut water second, and it's some lime in the third. And oddly,
Mm-hmm.
it links in very well
Oh,
with what you
nice.
were just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So mine was to do with references. So
Mm-hmm.
the book was published back in 2003. And
Okay.
there were a lot of references in there that made me giggle. So yeah, as you said, she calls him Lionel in the book. So
Uh-huh.
if you are of a certain age and you watched ThunderCats in the 80s and the 90s, you will know this reference. And at
Uh-huh.
one point, she's kind of like, oh, come on then, He-Man, let's get going.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same sort of thing. And it was like, when it was done, that made sense to me because they were in their 20s and I
Mm-hmm.
would have been around that similar age. But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, you've got to be sort of really careful because the 24-year-olds now were born in the year
Yeah.
2000.
Don't say
So,
that. But yeah. Okay.
yeah, the
It's weird.
24,
So
it's
weird.
so
But
weird.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, these people are
Not
grown
weird
ups
to
and they
them. That's just
shouldn't
their
be.
life.
Yeah,
But it's when
so,
people go, what, you were born in the late
yeah,
1900s? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I
shut
was
up, kid.
actually.
But
Weird.
this is it. If you were to write a book now with a 24-year-old protagonist, you
Yeah.
can't mention, the raccoons, or you can't say any of these things.
Yeah.
'Cause people will
Mm-hmm.
go, well, what now?
There's a lot of discussion about that, isn't there? Like
Yes,
some readers really, really hate pop references,
yes.
like pop culture references. And I kind of feel like you can put in certain ones and then not other ones. Because I think like some pop culture kind of transcends generation to a
Yeah,
point.
you
Like,
pick the big proper big people.
yeah, you can talk about Elvis
Mm,
because, like,
yes,
for a long time, many
he was
years, you can
the
talk
king
about
of pop.
Elvis. You can now talk, if you put in Taylor Swift, people are going to know who you're
Yeah,
talking
loads of
about.
people would know. Yeah, it's
And
go-to things like the Queen. The Queen, everybody
yeah,
knows who the Queen is,
yeah, yeah.
or Prince.
Hmm. Yeah. And like, it's not a terrible thing to date your work, I don't think either, because it's always going to be a product of its time. Like, I'm sure
Mm,
there's stuff you read in that you think, maybe people wouldn't enjoy that so much. Like, they might criticize it for that, but those were kind of the parameters we were working on out. It's like Friends,
mm.
I've seen a lot of discussion about Friends, and there's stuff you watch now when you see them and they're making particular jokes, and you're like, that's a bit
It
naff.
aged badly.
But at the same
Mm,
time, there was things about Friends that was very progressive at the
mm.
time, and it's like you you can still kind of see that and appreciate it, and it's like it's unavoidable. It doesn't matter what you do, you're writing from your time period, so
Yeah,
you
this is
can't
it.
like you can't write into the future for a generation that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh God,
It's-
I would never have guessed that some of the stuff that my kids watch on TV and enjoy and go,
how
but
could we
yeah,
possibly have fathomed what their brains would be like?
no, at all.
At
It
all.
just makes no sense. But
No, things have
it
changed
does to
so
them.
fast.
Mm,
But
really
yeah, but
has.
like niche things, it's a little bit, you're taking a little bit of a gamble there, aren't you? That someone's going to get the joke, basically.
Yes, this is it.
Yeah.
But as I said to you earlier, I was looking at it thinking, okay, so I'll do a little bit of digging. And I was like, okay, round the 2000s, I was 18. So to me, the references made perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what was number one around the time I was 18?
Uh-huh.
And again, I don't know if it kind of travels across the globe, but mine was Sneak. It feels so good.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then I kind of thought, you know what? I'll have a look at yours just to kind of see
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it was. And yours was Bob the Builder. And but it wasn't Bob the Builder, Bob the Builder. It was Mambo Number Five by Bob the Builder. I didn't even know that was a thing. Imagine going
Was
down the club
there?
and dancing to that.
Maybe.
Mambo
I
Number Five by
don't
Bob the Builder.
know. Wow.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
That is well, I can see I can hear it. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
whether I'm conjuring that from my nightmares or what.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Hungover
there.
Emma.
Yeah.
Bob the what now? But the
Yeah.
week after was Hey Baby by DJ Otzi, which I thought was a little bit better.
I don't even remember that one. I might know.
Hey baby. Ooh, ah,
Oh, that
ah,
one. Oh,
yeah.
geez. Yeah. Oh God, I
You
went
remember
to
that one?
I remember that one. Because that was one of those phenomenons where the song would come out, you'd hear it, but they didn't get released into the chart, did they, for a while? Do you remember?
Mm.
So like everybody would like it, and then you'd finally be able to buy it,
To
and then it
get it
would
from the
get into the
shop.
chart. Because
Buy
that
it from the
summer
shop.
before my 18th, I went to Famaraki with my sister,
Yeah.
and it was all in it was just that
Ooh.
constantly.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like harking back to you talking about Smirnoff Ice this last
Yeah, yeah.
week and stuff.
Regrets, you've had a few. See,
Ooh.
I went to Magaluf with my friend at like 1920, and yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
interesting times, children.
They are. They are. Not
Oh,
not times I want my children to go through, but I guess it's a rite of passage. So
yes, indeed it is. Again, if I ever watch this when they make it, I won't.
yeah.
But
Okay.
yes, you're number two. Hey, number two.
My number two mix a bit is the syrup. They make a special syrup to go in the
Ooh,
gingerbread martini, which you would like
nice.
probably because it's ginger, cinnamon, and cloves, and then you like boil it up with, just water and then distill it
Yes,
and then keep
I
it
have. I
to
have made
mix in.
syrup.
Have you done those? Yeah, I
Ooh,
looked and I was like, I could do this one. This one looks easy
I've made a
and
sugar
tasty.
syrup. Yes.
Um, yeah, and that I was kind of looking at as being a mix of all the very sweet characters that surround them in this story. So I already mentioned Marguerite, who's a spy, and she's very much like she's looking out for Grace. She's very protective and clever and funny. Um it's a little bit more complicated with her as the story goes on, but she's nice. And then there's Bear Tongue, who I mentioned as well, who
Yes.
is just hilarious. She's this older member of the Temple of the White Rat, and she's kind of like their boss. She's kind of taken charge of these lost paladins, and she takes them in, but she's sort of like she kind of acts like they're her little bratty brothers or something.
Mm,
She's like
mm.
bossing them around, but she's funny. She'll like they're when they're stood in this court and she's got them like being her bodyguards and they're behind her and they're talking and they've spotted this like a swan made of ice and they're like discussing whether or not you could use it as a weapon and stuff, and she's just like, will you stop trying to make me laugh, kind of thing. She's like, I will excommunicate you, and Stephen's like, technically we're not members of your temple, and she's like, I will make you members of the temple
Yeah,
so I
just to
can
get rid of you.
excommunicate you harder. So- and he's like, I will put you in the stockades. You don't have stockades. I'll build them
Oh,
just for you. but in this really like affectionate, fun way.
oh, I like
Um,
her.
and one of the particular other paladins, and I think it's his book that comes next,
Ooh.
is Istvan. He comes from like a different place. So I think like when they're members of the temples or the gods, they can come from all over to to be this. And he's kind of like this big golden retriever / Viking, and he's just hilarious.
Your
He's really,
mixes today are
I
interesting.
know, he's brilliant. Yeah, and he has like, he's kind of a ladies' man, and he's the one that like figures out that Stephen's met someone, and he's like, "Come on, you could just, go after this woman." And Stephen's very unsure about it because it's not, they don't have to take like a vow of celibacy or anything like that. But since they've lost their god, he's worried about what would happen with the rage and stuff. And his fan doesn't care. He's like, "You'll be fine. Just go for it. Makes you happy," kind of thing.
It's always
And
fun.
he's
I
like,
love those.
and when Stephen's like saying, "I don't know anything about her. She could be married. She could have 6 kids." And his fan's like, "Well, the 6 kids isn't a problem. And if she's married, what kind of husband was letting her go around the graveyard at that time? We'll just kill him off." It's like, he's great.
And his
So,
book's next. We need to
and
get this one on the case.
I think it's his one next. I
Oh,
think it's Paladin's Strength or something. And um, I really need to get on to reading the second book. It's like when we were doing the Winter King last week, and I was like, I
oh,
really need to read the Sea
the
King
second book.
now. Yeah. And I was looking on the website when I was doing the notes for that as well. And like the third book, um, apparently I think the author's woman, I'm assuming. I think she's working on it. And it was like she'd
Ooh.
written it and then like stopped and scrapped it all because it wasn't quite working. But it's still there. It's still in the pipeline, that third
Oh, aren't
book.
they always? They're in there
But yeah, I mean,
somewhere.
I know that feeling. God, I've got so
Mm-hmm.
many projects that I'm like, I will get back to that one
Seriously.
day. I really, really want to finish that. But am
Mm.
I gonna? Takes me far too long to write one book. I
Did the
don't think
first
I
one,
can
yeah.
write 6 this year.
Mm.
So,
Oh, God. Need the Dixon effect on me to get that done.
Mhm. So yeah, so that was my cocktail, my mix, and
Nice.
that was yours. And we'll see,
Yes.
yeah, where that's gonna
Oh,
take us next
yes.
week.
Next week. So, yeah. So, next week is number 3. God,
Number
nearly halfway
3.
already.
Yeah.
Flying.
And we've already had 3 good books.
We have
Three
fantastic.
books for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Probably
We'll
more
see.
because there's gonna be sequels.
Well,
I don't
this
even
is
know how
it.
many of
If you
these there
count them
are.
all. I mean, you already
Yes.
recommended the sequel to The Winter King, so
Yeah, which is
it's
already in your
4
list.
basically. Did you read any more in that series? Or was
I
that
think
it?
I think I bought about 7 or 8, but I think there is more. So I know I've read a few. Well,
A
she's one of
few.
8 kids. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
A
So
few.
was it all the brothers and then
Well,
all of his pack, or and then
yes. So and then you find the last chapter, the epilogue, I think has and they did this and this and this, and then
hmm
somewhere in New Mexico the wolves come out, and then somewhere
ah,
in North America, the cubs are stalking from the cave, and then somewhere
yeah.
else, these people are coming out, and I'm like, oh my God, there are millions of them, like
Yeah.
minions
Yeah.
all over, but without
I don't
dungarees.
know. That seemed to be a thing a lot more, that an author would be like, "This is the world, and I am going to be writing in this world for the
Forever.
foreseeable future."
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that for that long. I don't know. Do you feel,
Oh, I
how
don't
many,
know.
what do
I
you
think I
reckon?
could.
You think you could? You
I
could
think
like,
it, yeah, if you find a character that, have you never had a character that you've written and you've kind of like, yeah, side character, I like the way this happens and that happens, but then it's like, God, you need your backstory. Ruth
oh,
needs my backstory. I'm there for that already. And I've not even done the third one, and I'm already there
yeah.
thinking I need to do that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. I mean, that's basically what happened with the first 4 books. I just
So then, yes, Jessica, I do.
yes, I do that. But eventually I get to a point and I'm like, okay, I've got to write some like in a
Yeah, I
different
need to be different now.
arena. And I'm doing
Yes.
that with the ones now as well. It was like I wrote the first one and I was like, oh, but I could do a story about that one there. And then I've
Yeah.
got another idea for another one, which hopefully we're going to pitch, and we'll see if that gets picked up. It might not. I got that, and I've got a backstory one too as well. So
Yeah.
like the cave, the legend in the cave. with
Yes, I do.
Billy. I was like,
Mm.
that's like a
It
really
does.
cool story with him coming down and like the yeah. So I'd love to do that. And sometimes I think to myself, oh well, maybe I'll just do them and like put them in my newsletter. But I struggle to get my newsletter out, to be honest. So writing stories to go in the
Ah,
newsletter too is tricky. But do sign up, people, if you're
yeah,
listening
yeah.
and you
Sign up
fancy
to it.
it. Yeah.
Well, it's just because we've been discussing if anybody has children that have been off this Easter spring half term.
Mm,
It's lasted for 9 months. I
it
could have had
has
another
been.
baby in the 2 week window that the kids have been
Don't.
off.
I mean, if you
I'm
want
not
to, but
going to.
don't. Don't.
No. See, the middle wants a snake, so that's where we'd go. I'd much prefer to have a giant snake in the house.
Mm, I don't know about that, but yeah, it's tricky for me at the moment. Like, because my youngest, I mean, your youngest is like similar age, so I don't know if
Hmm.
you're experiencing it too. Maybe it's slightly different because you have boy, I have girl, but she seems to have like reached that sort of tipping point of moving into a new area of maturity and not seeming so young anymore. And a lot of the baby things are kind of
Oh, are they going?
going, and it's feeling a bit like, oh, so we got to say
Oh,
goodbye to
my
that now.
leg is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boy is much more, yeah, he's a lot more, I don't want to say immature. He is younger than the girls ever were at that
Yeah.
age. So
They
yeah,
get to,
it's a bit, yeah. I'm assuming it will be when he hits like 16, he'll suddenly just become like a berserker and just
maybe.
go and just
Ah, just tying it back in there, the
yeah,
berserker. But he will be a
basically.
berserker who knits because you raised him
Well,
to be very emotionally rounded and
yeah, well,
confident in his sexuality.
I have just started to learn to crochet because of him.
Oh,
So
really?
yes.
I still can't crochet.
I suck at it, but I'm
It's
trying to make him
so
a
hard.
Jigglypuff, which
Oh,
is, yeah, Pokemon if
that's so
nobody gets the reference.
sweet.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
really not. I'll send you a picture of the thing it looks like at the minute.
It's nailed it, but with
Oh,
crochet.
Jesus. Oh, it was supposed to be a Gengar, but the wall was too dark and I couldn't make it work. So I got very frustrated and
Just change that. Yeah.
I tossed it across the room. So it's now a
Oh,
Jigglypuff.
there's like
Oh, it
crochet
was,
needles just in the
yes,
wall.
but with purple. It looks like one of those murder scenes in a film where there's just wool
Which is one
attached.
of the things Stephen talks about when because he's like
Oh, is
saying
it?
about like he says how people for some weird reason people don't take a warrior seriously if he's knitting
If
socks
he's
and he
knitting,
doesn't
obviously.
understand why because he has to use like numerous bone needles
Mm,
that he could use as
shoving in the
weapons.
wall.
But then his second thought is, but I wouldn't because it's a real bugger to get them all hooked back on afterwards.
Really. So
So
just,
yeah. And as I
I
said,
have,
that's like the practicality side coming
yes.
through there. Why do
Oh,
that? I've got a perfectly good sword down here. I'll put my knitting down safely and get the
yes.
sword
And
out
just do this bit.
instead.
This is it. I can go to the shop and buy a Jigglypuff. Why am I learning to do this?
Yeah. See, I did that. I did some knitting when my eldest was when I was expecting her and just after. And then I didn't I haven't had as much time to do it for the second
Mm,
one. So I get guilted because she doesn't
no.
have knitted things. And also my
Oh,
eyes have got a lot worse. So I find it a lot harder to do the knitting.
squint at it. So again, age thing.
An age thing, yeah. And
Mm.
but every time she sees these knitted things that my eldest has, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna do that one for me that I asked for,
Yeah.
mummy?" Like
One
years and
day.
years ago, and I'm like, "Oh, it's like the you just get it right in the chest. Damn, that she's gonna be telling that to a therapist when I'm
Uh,
when I'm
well, this is it.
older."
Yeah. Our eldest has got like a baby book, and you do the thing of the foot, and it's like, well, if I'm doing your foot now, I need like an A4 piece of paper because
Yeah.
it wasn't done when you were this big.
I
Go
mean,
get a
I
big
only
thing.
made it 3 months with the baby book for the
Oh,
eldest anyway.
tedious.
I did all the pregnancy stuff in about three
Oh,
months and then I didn't get any further. So, and I've hidden that. So she don't know.
yeah,
So
that's in the loft.
there's no collateral there for
Yeah,
that
this is
one.
like the box. You'll find this box after I'm gone, and it will just be, why have you got one of these and I've not?
Oh, I know. See, the thing is, I remember because I'm the second child, and I remember looking at there was a photo album that was full of pictures of my sister doing all sorts of things. She was young. And then there was like half a photo album of me, mostly with my sister.
Yeah.
And I was like, why didn't I have pictures of me? But now I know why.
Yeah,
It's because
it's
yeah,
just you couldn't. Yeah.
that's it.
Why are they always at Christmas and Easter? Because that's just when we could be
That's when
bothered.
it happens. That's when we can
Yeah.
take the photos.
Yeah. Family around and we have to
And
look like
also,
we care.
it's not like we can say to the oldest one, go away, so I could just get a
Yeah,
picture
just
of the
I only want to take a
youngest.
picture of the one.
Just you, not you.
Yeah. Not that I love you the
That's
most, or
different trauma.
oh Jesus.
You have to pick your traumas for the
Yeah.
kids.
Well, Middle's already got a syndrome just because she is, so that she can have that, and I'll
Yeah,
pick the other two as we go.
that's it. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, on that note, the 10
Yeah.
minutes of just of
That's a
our
bit.
therapy.
I know. If you're still there, we are talking
Yeah.
about books vaguely.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. But yeah, so come and join us next week. We will be doing
Yeah.
things that we can't tell you because it's the
Yeah,
secret of
surprise
books that we're not going to
things.
tell you. So if that's of interest to you.
Was the surprise okay? It didn't drive you
Yes, no, it's
mad.
awesome.
Good,
No.
good, because you said you didn't like surprises.
Oh
But
no, usually where are we now? April. My birthday stuff will start early May
oh
for
yeah, yeah.
June. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a git, I am. Sorry, babe,
Yeah.
but I am. But yes. So
Yeah.
come and join us next week for episode 3.
Yeah.
Where all the usual places, the YouTube, the Spotify, the TikTok, I don't know, all the social people, you know who we
All the
are, as
social
SFF
things.
Rumcast. And if you want to send us an email, because people have been, it's
Yeah.
sffrumcast@gmail.com. Come
Don't
and tell
send
us
us
any
kids' books
books.
though. Don't
No,
send us those.
no, we have had a few
Was there
people send
another
us kid
one a
books.
few days
Yes,
ago, wasn't there?
there was.
Yeah.
And they look fantastic, and I can give
They
them to my kids,
do.
but we
They
can't chat
do.
about them here.
I mean,
So,
funnily enough, when we had someone email us before from a publisher offering a book that was not sci-fi or fantasy, but it was romance, I have now bought that book because it
it's
looked good,
a
and
good
I
book.
read contemporary, but I
Yes.
couldn't read. Unfortunately, well, I guess not unfortunately,
No.
because that money has now gone to the author, which is great.
Yes, which is
But
hurrah.
yeah, the arc was no good for us because
No.
we can't read them if they're not sci-fi
If
or
they're not,
fantasy
yeah,
romance, please.
romance. But
That's it.
yes, but if you just want to come chat to us, feel free to do that because that's fine. I like emails.
Yes. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. Tell us what you like.
Excellent.
Tell us what you don't like, but be kind while you do it
Yeah.
because we're people and we have feelings. So
Mostly. But as we said, over
mostly.
40, not so many fucks given anymore.
Yeah, I think we did that off the podcast, but it's
Yeah, we
still
did. But it's just
relevant
general.
very much to this, I think.
Yeah, to all of this. Everything today has
Yeah,
just slotted into the places.
exactly. Very much an age thing going on
Mm.
here.
I can see a title coming now.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll send you a list soon.
Yay.
Right. Yes.
But yes,
So
we'll see you soon,
thank
people.
you for joining us, and hopefully you'll be here next week.
You shall do. I
Okay.
will.
Bye.